Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, there's something about talking with a bona fide big screen action hero that makes me a little giddy inside. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain not only about current projects, but how they got into the business and all sorts of fun stuff. And if you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, and we certainly hope that you do, you can find us over on Spotify, over at Apple Podcasts, or you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel on YouTube. Where else would it be? But also, if you'd like to follow us on social media for some updates, that'd be great too. You could follow us at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One on either Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram for all sorts of updates. And finally, do not forget to follow us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, with all the latest and greatest interviews, movie news, reviews, and every other kind of fun thing that we can think of over there with our hardworking team who's going, I don't want to say 24/7, but they work hard and I love them for it. But before we get on to who our guest is today, if you know here at In the Seats, we love our physical media, we love our DVDs, we love our Blu-rays, and if you need a little bit of last minute Christmas shopping, or if there's something that isn't available on a streamer that you just want to be able to sit down and watch and enjoy, then we recommend our friends over at Bay Street Video, 1172 Bay Street here in Toronto, Ontario, and you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email over at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs. They are still open for curbside pickup. You can call or email with any kind of order that you want. They'll even ship as well. I mean, I doubt anything would make it for Christmas by this time, but still, if there's anything you need, they will stick it in the mail for you. Much like, a good movie starring the guy we're talking to. His name's Scott Adkins, and his movie Max Cloud is on VOD today, and it's a bit of a video game movie, but it's set in the 80s-ish, 90s, and it's really sort of a fun throwback to sort of the joy of video games and how you play these things and how you sort of get lost up in these kind of adventures. And it's a fun action movie for the whole family, but it's fun too. It's got a sort of a quirky, very sort of self-referential energy to it that we really enjoyed, and we got to talk to its star Scott Adkins, who is an action icon of some note who has worked all over the world. And we talked to him not only about this movie, but we talked to him about working in the Hong Kong film scene and just with a bunch of the other people that he's worked on, and sort of action movies in general, and sort of the fun of this kind of cinema. And we had a great talk, and I hope you enjoy listening to it.
And then you can dub my voice over it, and I'll just...
Okay, do it, yeah.
Right, come on, let's do it.
All right, obviously, first off, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. And I got a huge kick out of the movie. I've got to imagine it was a bit of a blast for you being able to play sort of an over-the-top hero as opposed to a silent but menacing sort of heavy. And walk me through sort of you initially seeing this script and getting involved with the project.
Well, it came out of the blue, it's just suddenly it was like, oh, they want to do this movie and it starts in a couple of weeks. Here's a script. Do you want to do it? And I'd been, a bit of a lighter, more comedic type of thing in some of my more recent films. But it was something I was thinking, I want to get more into the comedy. So it came up and it was like, yeah, this is interesting. I've not seen anything like this before. And I thought it seemed like a good thing to get involved with. So I spoke to the director, had a chat, and we did it.
Are those the best stories sometimes when things just kind of fall in your lap?
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about this job is you never know what's around the corner sometimes. I mean, I've been developing my own stuff recently, so I've got more ownership of what I can do in the future.
Right.
Because sometimes you don't want to be at the mercy of whatever might come through the door.
For sure.
And you end up doing something that you didn't really want to do. But this was like, yeah, cool. Let's give this a try. It seems like something different and fun.
Well, I mean, something with this that really stood out for me is like the action sequences, especially sort of as we're getting to know the character. They definitely feel like you were very conscious of making them look like they were in a video game. Like, how much work did you have to sort of put into that to sort of make the action sequences feel like they were a 90s video game, basically? Because like the moments when you kick and the punch, they were very sort of in that video game style.
Yeah, well, I can't take credit for any of that. The director, Martin, he wanted it to look a certain way. And along with Andy Long, the action director, fight coordinator, who I've worked with before, and I trust him, he's really good. They came up with the different versions of each fight, which they all look like they take place in a video game, yet they all are kind of different, right?
Right, yeah.
So the first one is like humans doing the, video game stuff that we used to. And then the middle section I thought was really cool, the way they did that. It was all Andy. I just did as he wanted, and I was happy to sit back and let him do his thing because he's really good.
Now, I mean, this is something I've always been curious to ask you, because you're such a multifaceted guy, and I'm kind of curious what ultimately got you into the business, into acting, because you've done such a wide-ranging variety of stuff, from the action stuff to, like you say, you've done a bit of comedy. You're making a very conscious effort to mix it up.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing I ever wanted to do since I was a little kid. So I didn't come into it as a martial artist and think like, oh, maybe I should learn to act. Maybe this is a career path for me that I should think about. It was, from an early age, I loved movies and I loved martial arts, and I knew I wanted to do martial arts in the movies. And, went to drama school and all the rest of it. And my first job was a Hong Kong movie as a stuntman. Second job was a daytime soap opera, as an actor. So I've always had those two sides. And yes, I like to try different things and keep it fresh. And I think if I push myself and I do something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone, it improves me in the long run as an actor. So I don't want to rest on my laurels. I want to keep getting better. And the way to do that is to try different things.
For sure. No, I mean, I've been a big fan for a while. And I mean, I have seen you in a lot of the Hong Kong stuff. And I've always been kind of curious, because not a lot of Caucasian actors sort of get that respect of being able to work in the Hong Kong world. And I'm kind of curious, how are the two different? And like, is there something you've learned in one that you've been able to translate over to the other, and vice versa?
It's hard work in Hong Kong or China. It's hard work. You are expected to put your body on the line. You're expected to do things again and again and again until they're correct. If you're doing a movie with Yuen Wu-ping, he's going to push you to the limit. He doesn't care if you get injured or what you've got to moan about. Shut up, do it again. It's tough, but that's why it looks as good as it does. They make things up on the spot. They do things on the fly. I mean, for Ip Man 4, we rehearsed the fight sequence for a couple of weeks. We didn't even do that fight sequence. It was something completely different. So that's where I'm like, scratch my head sometimes thinking, well, I don't really understand that. But at the same time, they're still the best to do it, So that's the difference from America, is that spontaneity and not working with a schedule and just getting there and making it up. But they are incredible. And it is the best place. I was very fortunate that I started in Hong Kong and I learned from the best. And I immediately was shown, this is what it takes to make action great. And if you're not doing it this way, it's not going to be as good as these guys. And I took that into the rest of my career.
And I mean, it's one of those things, because you're in a unique position, especially with your karate background. Your martial arts, I mean, but you've grown up admiring certain people, and then you've ended up working with those people. And I mean, I'm kind of curious how your martial arts background sort of opened up the door for you into the acting world.
As I say, it was the martial arts and acting at the same time. Probably martial arts came easier to me than acting. Physically, that was something that I grabbed hold of. I was a natural, probably not a natural with the acting because I was very shy. So that was something that was lagging behind, and the martial arts was going up quicker than the acting part of me. So I did a lot of like, stunts and martial arts and stuff like that in bigger movies, and the acting was lagging behind. I think now that's not the case, but for some years that could have been the case. But the more you do, the better you get. And I forgot what your original question was.
Well, just in terms of did one sort of
Oh yeah,
profession open the door for the other, or vice versa?
well, no, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do action movies, and martial arts was a big part of that, but also acting. So I went to drama school. As I say, went to Hong Kong, started working with those guys and learning how to do martial arts on film. And at the same time, I was doing British BBC soap operas, things like that, acting. I'd done Shakespeare on the stage and all the rest of it. So it was at the same time.
Wow. Okay. Now, I mean, for you thinking back, can you dial it back to a movie or like a moment in your life where you went, okay, this is what I want to do, that sort of flipped the switch for you?
Yeah, vividly. And I wanted to do it before I saw this film. And apparently I used to say to my mom, I want to be a stuntman from a very early age. But I vividly remember watching Bloodsport, watching the whole thing. I remember the whole day. I remember seeing it, the video cover for the first time, like, wow, international martial arts sensation, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I remember it was an 18 certificate, so I had to hide the video and run home, get mom, got to get this video, got to get this video. It's called Bloodsport. She came in, she rented it for me, and I watched it. And I watched it like 5 or 6 times before taking it back. But after the first viewing, I remember calling my mom in because she would work in the office and saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. I want to do what he does.
Now, you see, I love that story because, I mean, that was a formative movie for me, too. And I think I was scared of Bolo just for years. Anytime I'd see him in any other movie, it is one of those sort of really formative moments where you get to see sort of the good versus evil play out in sort of the action setting. And it's such a fun ride.
It's a phenomenal movie. Dated now, of course, in the action way, but so simple, such simple. And it's basically a rip-off of Enter the Dragon, really.
Yeah.
With Bolo in it from Enter the Dragon, but it just works. It was great.
I mean, and for you, when you're looking at stuff and even developing your own stuff, because sometimes you just have to keep it simple, and it's the simple stuff that sometimes gets remembered. And I think that's part of the magic of this movie, because it's fun. But again, it's got a very simple core to it and a very simple heart to it, which is what allows people to sort of get behind it.
Yeah, I don't like plotty movies for the most part. Like, I much prefer a strong character. I mean, this is something different. This is fun. It's zany. It's got a lot going on, very colorful, entertaining, switch your brain off, action, comedy, just enjoy it. But sometimes, like, I'll see a review of one of my movies and they'll talk about how the plot's paper thin and all the rest of it. And I don't necessarily agree. My favorite movies are very simple, and it's about the characters and the relationships between the characters, not so much about the plot. Like, Mission Impossibles are fantastic. I really love them. I've got to be honest, sometimes I don't know what the hell's going on. It's so plot driven. I lose track. All I know is that Tom Cruise is the good guy and he's going to do some crazy stunt. But sometimes I don't know what's going on because it's just so plot driven. So I think you don't need that. I think you need good characters, and a simple story can sometimes be the best story, I think. I mean, Jaws, that's not, of course, yeah. That's a simple story, man.
Yeah, it really is.
That is the best movie. And that is the characters. It's about the characters.
Now, I mean, I guess just to put a bow on this, because people obviously know you as an action star, and I'm kind of curious if there's one action movie that you could have been in but weren't for any reason, be it fictional or truth, like, what would it be?
Which action movie would I be in?
Yeah.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second there. Repeat that question.
No, like, what if you had to pick one action movie to be in that you weren't in, that you would have loved to have been a part of, what would it be?
Yeah, probably The Raid.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's, as a recent movie, That's incredible. That's action cinema at its
Well, and
best.
it's just knowing, it's having that appreciation of knowing what they're actually doing in the moment. I think for me it'd be hard boiled, just knowing that they actually had to blow up that hospital and it wasn't CGI.
Uh,
Like they actually did all that stuff.
that one take before
Yeah,
the Bonner was cool. Can you
exactly.
imagine what the reset was like on that, with all those windows and doors blowing off and everything?
That,
Incredible stuff.
that's the crazy world, especially about old school action cinema that a lot of fans, especially maybe in Britain and North America, don't necessarily understand. It's just so much of it is practical, and that's sort of the core of
It's all practical back in
actual
those
action
days.
storytelling, you know?
Yeah, all practical. These days you can hide a hidden cut, right? Couldn't do that back then. Couldn't do it. I mean, you could, but you didn't do it. And it's amazing. John Woo, yeah, for a long time was my favorite director. I met John Woo when I was 16 years old in Nottingham. He came over to, it was a screening of Bullet in the Head and Bullet to the Head and The Killer. The Killer was my favorite film for a long, long time.
Great movie.
Yeah. I mean, Hardball is amazing as well, but The Killer, there's something about it that's almost poetic.
Well, you know what? And I mean, I think that's a good note to end on because I mean, I love that movie and I love this movie too because I mean, they're different movies, obviously, but it's a lot of fun and it's something you can really sort of get absorbed by, which is the whole point of telling these kind of stories in the first place.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I appreciate it, David.
Well, thanks again for the time, man. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks a lot, David. Speak to you again.
All right, cheers, man.
Okay, mate. See ya.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.